So, what happened to Renee Good um, just hit me particularly hard. And I think a lot of people that watched the videos felt the same way. I mean, you know, how am I going to put this? On the one hand, I don't think that it matters anymore that she was a white person or a citizen than a non citizen or a person of color being unalived or brutalized by ICE. But there is a natural human instinct, I think, when you see yourself in someone like that. And I don't think that's like necessarily a bad thing. That's the basis of empathy, is to see yourself in other people. Now, it is our job to make sure that we learn to use and flex our empathy and not let it become stifled and stunted. And part of that means putting ourselves in the shoes and the mindset of people that aren't just like us. And that requires us to extend our sympathy and empathy to people who aren't like us. And that is something we should all work on every day. But I mean, it is a natural impulse. I mean, look at me. Like, she's in my age range. She kind of looks like me. I mean, it is natural to have that thought. That could have been me. If it can happen to her, it can happen to me. And for a lot of white Americans, that's a wake up call. Now, there are a lot of white Americans that, especially those who are involved in activism and so forth, or who are liberals, who are aware that this has been the lived experience for a lot of people of color in our country for a long time. It's just been either under the surface, dismissed, but it happens on a regular basis. It just isn't always so in your face. Look at the Black Lives Matter movement after George Floyd. That also, I think, woke up white Americans, not just Black Americans. At least it woke up a portion of white Americans who are like, wait a minute, this guy didn't do anything. It doesn't matter if he's Black or white. He's an American citizen. And you just unalived him on camera in front of all of us. Now, there are a lot of white Americans who are like, oh, that's not my problem because it's a person of color. The police kill them all the time. And that's an issue in our country. But each of these things does serve as a wake-up call. I think that a lot of liberals that I knew were kind of woken up by the George Floyd uh, incident, because they were like, wait a minute, they just did that on camera and he didn't do anything wrong. And now with Renee Good, it's even more apparent. It's not always necessarily that that person is of one color or another, but more that the people seeing the incident, first of all, it is generally something that is on camera and very plainly, brutally, obviously unjustified, such as George Floyd or Renee Good. And it's also that, you do identify with that person on some level. And I know I'm rambling here a bit, I'm sorry. But the reason I bring all of this up is because I've seen some posts talking about the unaliving of Keith Porter recently, who was a Black man who was unalived by an ICE agent on December 31st of 2025. And the post that I saw was saying that nobody cares about that incident because it's a Black man. And I guess my answer to that would be yes and no. I do think it's that to some degree for a certain group of people. They don't see themselves in that person, or they don't see that group's problems as their problems. Like, there are white people who may sympathize with the way that Black people are treated by the police, but they're not going to take any action on it because they don't see it as their problem, essentially. It's not going to touch them, so they don't care about it enough to take any action. And of course, there are the racists. But then, like with Keith Porter, for instance, and I do want to bring attention to his death because this is another incident of ICE just unaliving somebody for no reason. But I also want to say that, unfortunately, when these things happen off camera or without this amount of media attention directed towards them, there is a tendency to overlook these things. I do think part of it has to do with the fact that Renee Good was a white woman. And in our country, there tends to be a huge outcry whenever a white woman gets just randomly unalived. It's much more likely that there will be an outcry in that instance than if it was a person of color. But another part of it, to be fair, is that we all saw the videos, multiple videos, that showed quite plainly what happened. We saw them slowed down, backed up, rolled forward, frame by frame, still shots. I mean, it couldn't be more blatantly obvious that the Trump regime is lying about it. But I wanted to bring this up to say, first of all, Renee Porter is not, Renee Nicole Good is not the only one. Is not even the first one. It's not even the first citizen, much less the first person that's been unalived by ICE this year. And I think it's good that so much attention is being paid to her case, but we need to not forget all of the other people. We need to not forget the ones that just kind of slipped between the cracks and the ones we'll never know about. The ones that just disappeared. And we need to remember all of them and bring light to all of them. And we need to see ourselves in all of them and in every single other person